Good afternoon. Let's get some of our final energy up here. I think we're the panel that's keeping everybody from cocktails, right? So that's like a good place to be, I think. But we're so happy for those who are holding on with us, and we're so excited to have this conversation and honored to round out this incredible day of conversation. I'm Aileen Fuchs, and I am the president and executive director of the National Building Museum. So welcome to my house, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place to be. It's still always awe-inspiring to sit here, and I have the joy of sitting here with my colleagues who are also leaders of this great institution. So we're super excited to engage you guys today. I kicked off the day and told you a little bit about the museum. I think it's just worth again saying, that we are chartered by Congress to be our nation's museum for how we design and build a better world. And that is what has been the heart and soul, I believe, of this conversation at the end of the day, and how we create opportunities for more people to be engaged in that very, very important work. And we do all of our work through engaging the public in these complex conversations, through great storytelling, through exhibitions and activations and events. And we're excited to champion people-centered collaborative approaches to solving complex problems facing our society. And I think we are here today because we all certainly perceive and experience one such issue, and that is around the crisis of labor shortage across the building industries. And this panel is going to primarily focus on the challenges and opportunities for women within this context. And I was going to set the stage today with using AI, thank you, to pull stats about that, but I think we kind of have the general gist, which is there is a vast underrepresentation of women across these industries, and my colleagues are going to be able to touch on that with a little more detail. But these are issues that need to be faced head on with solutions and collaborations that also recognize and celebrate the value add contributions of women in these industries. And women as really the talent, the potential, and the essentialness of them. So I'm so pleased then to be able to share the stage again with my colleagues here who are trustees of the museum. That one of the powers of the museum is our convening power to bringing people across every vertical of the industry. These are leaders right here that represent architecture, engineering, construction, trades, and we're going to have a great conversation today. And I think by way of introducing each of them, I'm not going to read their bios or anything. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and go. We're going to kind of go across the line with this question. So please just tell us a little bit about your career path and what inspired you to pursue your career, and maybe what keeps you motivated. I like that motivational moment as well.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Anna Gradishar. I'm an associate principal at Arup, which is a global multidiscipline engineering and consulting firm. I lead our Washington, D.C. office. I'm a fire protection engineer, so if no one's heard of that, I take care of life safety, fire suppression, fire alarm. I got into it after becoming a volunteer firefighter, about 20 years ago in Fairfax County, and knew I wanted to combine my love for engineering and my passion for firefighting. And I went back to grad school and got my degree in fire protection engineering and haven't really looked back since. So what keeps me motivated every day at work is the people I work with. As much as I love the technical side of my job, what I really love is the people side, the project management side. I find nothing more fulfilling than helping people find their passion at work, and so that's what I focus on, is helping keep people happy in their jobs and their careers. I'd say what keeps me motivated is my own kids. I have 3 teenagers, 3 in high school right now. So I think having a working mom for them has been a challenge in a way, but it's also something that I've been fortunate enough that they have taken a lot of pride in my role and my job, and they've seen the sacrifices that I've made and that they've had to make, right? Maybe I'm traveling and not home with them, but they also see the benefits and the successes that I'm able to experience, and that brings them joy. So I feel really fortunate to have that support in my family.
Good afternoon. I'm Caryn Halifax. I'm the president of the International Masonry Institute. which is a joint labor management partnership between the International Union of Bricklayers and Allied Craftworkers and the mason and tile contractors that employ BAC members. I was thinking about this question, and every time I do, I think about that saying, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. I fell into the construction industry quite by accident. I had other plans for my career, but I happened to get a summer job in the masonry industry. And I've been really fortunate to have really excellent mentors, leaders that I've worked for, colleagues who have really helped guide me. And it's really such an amazing industry to be in, because if you do have the right set of ingredients, good mentors, good training, you really can carve out an excellent and exciting career path.
Carve out.
I have to throw around the masonry buns, Aileen. But it's such a privilege to be able to make that space for other people coming into the industry now, particularly for young craft workers and particularly for women coming in. It is a non-traditional field, and so anything that we can do to reach people where they live, to welcome them as they are, it's just really an exciting thing to be in a position to do. And I think the other thing that is a real privilege for us in the industry is to have an appreciation for the places that we live and work that not everybody does. I mean, you don't really get a chance to be intentional about where you are or think intentionally about it. And for me, I also get to think really intentionally about the people who are placing every brick into buildings like this one. So that is my story.
All right. I am Marnique Heath. I'm a principal and chair of the board of Studios Architecture. We are an international architecture firm that focuses on both architecture and interiors commercially. We focus on workplace, civic and institutional, and mixed-use projects all over the world. And I didn't come into architecture accidentally. I've known I wanted to be an architect since I was about 9 years old, and I was fortunate to be introduced to it at an early age through my parents and then friends of theirs who had an architecture firm, Livus Design Group, which was connected to Hampton University. I'm from Virginia Beach. And so I was able to have an opportunity to be an intern when I was in high school. And that's been something that I benefited from, and I've held that dear as a great way to introduce students to the possibilities of architecture and design and all things related to it at an early age, and how that can set the trajectory of your career. And so I went to architecture school at UVA, undergrad and grad, and then came to Washington, D.C., and have been with Studios ever since. And what inspires me is particularly growing up at Studios, having the ability to lead and to influence the built environment in this way, but also influence the next generation. As a woman leader, particularly, I get overwhelming number of students who reach out to me, male and female, who are looking for opportunities, but just want to hear, what's your story? How did you do this? And I love being able to share those stories with them and talk to them about their future. And I feel very fortunate to be in this position and to be able to give back. So look forward to talking more about that.
Hello, everyone. My name is Catriona Winter, pronounced a little differently. I'm a senior vice president of project development at Clark Construction, which is the nation's largest privately held general contractor. We specialize not only in vertical buildings, but a lot of horizontal infrastructure design and construction as well. My path to where I am today was unanticipated, circuitous, and similar to the way you were describing it, Caryn, a bit of a surprise to me. I had a very laser-focused intention when I was 9 that I was going to be an orthopedic surgeon. And I was thinking that I was pre-med all the way. I got halfway through college, realized that I was not in the environment I wanted to be in with regards to collaboration and working with other people in a team structure. And so made a hard pivot to architecture, which was a little surprising to go from organic chemistry to architecture, but I think it's the architecture of joints scaled up and carpentry scaled up. And so I finished my undergraduate in architecture, and September 11th happened, and no one was hiring architecture students, and so I went straight through and did my master's working part-time at a local architecture firm in Charlottesville. And as the most junior person in that firm, I was often sent out into the field to work through the construction administration, which was wild and exciting and thrilling, and realized that I had a love for construction. And that was literally the hook that brought me into the construction industry. And I started with Clark 21 years ago. I just celebrated that anniversary the other week. So it's been a wild ride. But with regards to what inspires me, I have to say that I'm super proud of my peers and colleagues and the team that we have at Clark, some of the hardest working and energetic and visionary people that I know in the industry, and it's an honor to serve next to them every day. My two daughters keep me motivated as well. They are 11 and 14, and we've tried to, in the evenings at dinner time, normalize talking about the roses and thorns, the highs and the lows of your days and what you're going through, and it can be so clarifying to have a child listen to your story and say, so this is what happened next, right? And so those are the things that keep me grounded and keep me thinking about how they think about what they want in their future careers, listening to how we work through what we work through.
I love that. I'm excited to dig into more things. We have a couple of structured questions, and if we have time, which I'm not sure we will, we can take a question or two. But the next question moves us into workforce challenges and opportunities. And I want to say earlier today, I learned of a very specific challenge in the workforce from a wonderful panelist, and that is PMS. That it's pale, male, and stale. Oh. which was a wonderful a contribution. But for us, we are going to look at how has the labor shortage affected your sector, and where do you see the biggest gaps and opportunities for women specifically? And Catriona, I'd like you to start with that one.
Sure, happy to. So one of the things that is, for me, the most staggering statistic that comes up in conversation every week as we're thinking about what we're doing and how we're engaging our trade partners and the pipeline of skilled labor into the workforce is that as of today, a recent report even validated this, that the average age of the U.S. construction worker is 45 years old. And specifically within our company and our craft force, our average age is 43, which on the surface, one might think that construction is a young person's game. You know, in your 20s and your 30s, it can be quite physical and laborious, but 45 is the average age. And so, you know, the other thing that's interesting about that is a third of all construction workers today are slated to retire within the next 7 to 10 years. And with that comes a significant loss of institutional knowledge, which is kind of terrifying. And so we have really, really doubled down in the last 5 years on how we are engaging with high school guidance career counselors, as well as students and parents, to celebrate and spotlight the dignified work of construction and the possibilities there. With regards to women, I think one of the biggest opportunities that I am hopeful for is watching the influx of women in the skilled trades. And when you think of the pipeline of apprenticeship as a role and a title, within the last year or two, there's just over 10,250 apprenticeships that are women throughout all of the trades. And if you look over the last 5 years, the increase of interest and participation in apprenticeship programs by women has increased by 55% year after year. So that increase is significant in its growth and its pacing. So that's encouraging for me.
Does anyone else want to add to that question?
I mean, I just want to add that I think we've faced a cultural challenge for decades with respect to everybody coming into the construction industry on the trades side, that it hasn't been a valued career path. And I think, there's more of a discussion in the past several years about the wages and benefits that come with this. And I think, one of the things that we need to think about in terms of opportunity. Well, and I should also say there's a real cultural challenge with this being considered not a career for women, right? That this is a man's career. But we know women are doing this really successfully, and that they're really strong opportunities if the conditions are right. And I think, one of the things that we need to think about is one of the opportunities is that this is something that you can come into really at any age. We see a lot of apprentices come into our programs in their mid-20s, particularly as they're falling off their parents' health insurance programs, when they can start drawing benefits. And so we really need to be creative about how we're reaching out, who we're reaching out to, and how we're messaging about the opportunities in this industry. The other thing that I really think we all need to be conscious of, and I mean like all of the industry, all of the portions represented on this stage, is that with this, in the Great Recession, there was a real pullback on apprenticeship and investment in apprenticeship and training. But there's a real demand for speed of construction, productivity, and everybody wants to hire a 20-year-old with 30 years of experience on the job, right? So I think we really need to think as an industry about how we make a commitment to training and what that really looks like, our patience level, our mentorship level with people coming into the trades, and really be creative about how we're reaching out, whether it's through we partner with, we're Job Corps contractors, and so we're reaching out through Job Corps facilities to bring folks in. We partner at the national level with a number of different organizations, including the ACE Mentor Program, which if you are not familiar with it, I really encourage you to look into that. It is a high school program where architects, engineers, construction managers, and craft workers go in and do mentorship with high school students in after-school settings. And it's become a really incredible pathway into architecture and engineering and construction management, but it's also really a way to disseminate information about all of the opportunities available in the construction industry.
That's just a perfect segue this from opportunities into more specificity around innovative programs and talent development. And I'd love each of you to weigh in on this if you can. And it's really talking about how mentorship and apprentice programs are evolving to meet today's workforce, which we talked a lot about today. But I know each of you work so well. I'd love for you to each be able to kind of share an example of an innovative program that is successfully attracting or retaining or promoting new talent and women to the trades or to your industry. I don't know if, Caryn, you want to continue, or Anna, if you want to pick that up?
Sure. I mean, yeah, I can start. So not necessarily the trades, right? But as engineers, we are out on construction sites, meeting with installers, tradespeople, general contractors, and I really think that representation matters, right? When you have women out there engaging with women who are tradespeople or general contractors, that just encourages more women to stay in the industry, right? So as an engineering profession, what ARUP is doing, we have a number of programs, leadership development, that start from day one, recognizing that it takes a lot of time to develop leaders, and that we all want leaders from day one, but we need to start investing in day one. So we're doing that. I think one of the things I'm most proud of is ARUP offers equal parental leave for any parent of a child, whether it's a mother or a father or otherwise. And that the messaging there is that no one's career is maybe more valuable than the other, and the more we create an environment where anyone is able to stay home and take care of a child, then the other person is able to continue on their career. And that's just, I think, really important for me as an office leader, that we're creating that environment where people will stay in the industry. They don't feel less than, or that they might have to sacrifice their career, to stay home.
Caryn, you want to?
Sure. So I will speak to this mainly from the apprenticeship side of the work that we do at IMI. But in general, we've been increasing our use of asynchronous learning opportunities, particularly in the pandemic, to keep participants safe as they're learning, but also give them more flexibility so that they can be home with their families rather than in a training center in the evenings. Obviously, that does not work for every class that we're offering, but it has really been an interesting way for us to leverage technology, particularly for newer generations. We've been really focused on intergenerational communication training for our training instructors and also for supervisors that we're training. And we are looking at block training for our craft workers. So for example, in cold weather states, all of the training might get pushed into the winter months so that they can be out on job sites the rest of the year. And we're also requiring mentorship programs for our own internal apprenticeship program certifications. With respect to women in particular, about 2 years, well, I guess almost 3 years ago, we launched a maternity disability benefit for female craft workers. So in the construction industry, craft workers may not work for the same employer for the full year. They might work for several different employers. And so it's not really affordable for a single employer to offer something like this. But I will say I think it's the real benefit when you see labor and management coming together in this way to solve a problem in the industry. So we have a maternity benefit that offers up to 26 weeks of coverage for female craft workers pre and postpartum, and it's a $600 a week payment with no offset for other benefits that they might get. For example, from municipalities that have paid leave. So we really see this as the floor, not as the ceiling as a benefit, but just to make sure that these female craft workers are getting income while they are out of work. We've also developed some women's leadership training that makes sure that women are prepared for supervisory positions as they become available and can also take on leadership roles at home, either within the union, as supervisors on construction sites, as instructors in the training programs, et cetera. And because we understand that, of course, I'm going back to the maternity benefit, that the financial burden doesn't stop with childbirth. We also have a child care discount program for all of our participants that they can avail of.
I mean, these seem like massive accomplishments. I mean, are you seeing opportunities are people looking to you for replicable models for this? Are we going to see movement on this across trades?
Yes, and I mean, I should say we're not the first of the construction trades to offer something like this. I will say I like the way our program is modeled because it's very easy for women to identify how much money they'll have coming in. It's not a complicated formula. You work a certain number of hours, you get this amount of money in this circumstance. I think the construction trades are really doing this. I think we need to talk about it more. The iron workers were the first ones to do it. We have a program, I think the painters have a program, and the sheet metal workers may have a program now. But it is something that we're all talking about and thinking about and looking at ways to improve. So I think the other thing is you have to be really intentional about this and really keep your eyes open for things that could be done better and how we can work together in partnerships like the one that we have to develop programs and offer these.
Amazing. Marnique, what can you share with us?
Sure. I've been really excited to see the enthusiasm of our studio around creating a high school internship program. And this is really, it's more about introducing high school students to architecture than having them come in and work for us. But we've worked along with DC Public Schools Career Readiness Institute to identify students. We've also had people reach out to us, whether they're their own children or friends' children who they know who are interested in architecture. And so we've just finished our 4th summer of having students come in. We do a 2-week intensive program where people in the studio are talking to them about various aspects of about architecture, introducing them to concepts, taking them to construction sites so that they're getting a firsthand experience of what it means to think about design and what it translates to in the built form. And then some of those students then spend the rest of the summer with us working on Revit, learning the software, understanding at a deeper level some of the basic things that we work on. And so that, feeding our pipeline that way has been really valuable for us. We continue to track those students. We have provided some scholarship money to some of the students when needed, but we like to keep track of them for future opportunities. We also, we haven't gone nearly as far as what you've just talked about, but as a firm, we really lean into the need for flexibility, particularly for women, but dads too, people with new families. We have a lot of employees who are young in their career and starting new families, and the idea of flexibility we take seriously. And so as we've been back at work for a long time, it feels like, but post-pandemic, flexibility for us means people can come and go when they need to, and that we treat people like adults and they act like adults. And so we've never mandated anything in particular. And I think, that's important, particularly in architecture and design, where historically these have been, you grind it out in studio in architecture school, and you come into the field and you're expected to work long hours, and we just recognize that's not sustainable. It certainly doesn't support keeping women and people with young families in the field. And when AI tells us that 50% of people in architecture, or I'd say, if I say that differently, men and women in architecture schools are represented about 50-50. But when you look at the representation of women in the profession, that drops by about 30%. And so that's a signal that we need to change the way we're thinking about how people work. And flexibility for us has been one step towards making sure that people can practice architecture and have families. And so as long as our employees and design staff are doing what they need to do to get the work done, doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be in the office all the time. So it's a simple step, but it has helped us a lot in maintaining our staff as they're thinking about their future families.
Bring us home, Catriona.
Sure. So over the last few years, I've had the opportunity to participate in a few collaborations with some of our clients where we've been able to take a gathering of individuals from various projects and bring them into high schools and do panel discussions about what our experiences and pathways were into our careers. And that has been something that we've done where we've also invited parents to attend. And it's usually some of the focus groups within schools that are women-based. And so when you have a group of daughters and parents, they're listening to what these opportunities are. You can visibly see the reaction of like a sobering awakening. One of the things most specifically that I'm proud of in the last few years that we've developed is our Crafting Futures program. And one of the things we realized when we have been going out and having conversations with high school principals, administrators, guidance counselors, career counselors, is a lack of awareness about the opportunities that are available to them through a vocational path. Because in broad strokes, I'll just say that in the last decade or two, I remember growing up in the 90s, it was college or bust. And there wasn't as much conversation about vocational opportunities. And so one of the things we realized was a huge gap was the awareness and being able to provide information and put it in the hands of the career counselors in high school so that they had a broader arsenal of opportunities and pathways that they could talk about with their students. And so the Crafting Futures Summit that we did was a workshop, a day of workshops geared towards a handful of different school systems, career counselors, as well as their principals and assistant principals. And there was a lot of traction there. And so, when we think of the three legs of a stool of what does it take to elevate awareness for a student, there's the career counselor, and there's the parent. And so we've been thinking about ways to connect with all of those. Most recently in May, we were pretty excited about a newer program that we put in place, which was our Skilled Trades Day of Exploration, where we partnered with our subcontracting trade partners and invited them in to collaborate with us and create immersive experiences that were hands-on to show some of the fundamental techniques and skills across masonry, drywall, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and giving a hands-on experience for these students to see this is what it would look and feel and smell like if this were something that I was learning how to do. And then we also had a segment where these trade partners could talk about a day in the life of. What does my day look like? What are the kinds of things that I am building, seen and unseen, that are critical elements of infrastructure for society, and talking about the impact of what they touch. And so, that part of the inspiration of that was a leader at one of the local community colleges said, kids these days don't want a mug or a keychain from a career fair. They want to be able to touch it, see it, feel it, smell it. And so that was designed in response to that. I'm excited that our next annual Crafting Futures event is happening this November, and what we're doing is we're blending the program from the first Crafting Futures event as well as with the Skilled Trades Day of Experience that we did in May, and we're merging them together to reach both the students and the career counselors at the same time.
Do you want to talk all about women in construction?
Yes, I would love to.
Yes, I would love to.
I'm also very excited that one of the audience members is a fellow board member of mine, Margaret Lucy, so exciting to see you here. So one of the things that I am also passionate about is a nonprofit industry organization named Women in Construction. It's a 501c6 that was founded 19 years ago by two Barbaras. One Barbara is a Barbara Wagner, who is one of the senior-most executives at Clark Construction, who's been with us for over 40 years. And the other was Barbara Werther, who is a construction lawyer that is rather well known in this area. So the two Barbaras had this wacky idea that it would be really fantastic to bring a cross-section of women who touch the built environment, from engineering to actual general contracting, subcontracting, insurance, that whole domain, and bring them together for an annual summit. And the first one, I think, was about 15 people. We're projecting that we're going to have about 600 in October 30th. The theme is Framing the Future. Tickets are on sale. And so one of the things that I love the most about Women in Construction, when I first went 7 years ago to my first conference, because I inherited the mantle from my predecessor at Clark to step into this board position, was I had this kind of goosebump chilling moment of, aha, I have found my people. I have found my people that have related and adjacent experiences to what I am seeing and feeling and having happen in my day-to-day, and I can learn so much from them, even though their jobs may be on paper quite different. And so the solidarity of that and the representation when we get together and we see the strength of what this looks like has been very inspiring. It's the boost I need every October to just be refreshed by that. And there's been a lot of contribution back to high school, women in high school who are looking to bridge the gap financially, to pursue an engineering or a design degree. So we've put more than $70,000 into, over the last decade, into ACE scholarships to help young women. It's about 2 or 3 every year, bridge that gap with their loans.
And Catriona asked me 2 years ago, I think, to give the big motivational morning speech, and I was like, why would I do that? I am an undergrad theater major who now runs the National Building Museum. I've never worked a day in my life in construction, and that became the theme of my speech in many ways, in terms of what are the leadership applications you can have from all walks of your life to feel empowered and ready to lead at any level in any industry. And I was I'm not typically nervous about public speaking, and I was extremely nervous, and I was extremely touched by so many young women that reached out to me to say how inspirational it was. And I think that segues to our next question a little bit, which is about leadership. When we've talked about these innovative programs that we desperately need to bring in new talent, we're talking about the barriers of retention, but maybe you guys can talk a little bit about, at that next level, like how do you empower leaders? We know at every level of all of these industries that women are vastly underrepresented, but we also know at the leadership level, it's just as stark. So what do you do? What do you see? What has helped you? We'll talk about that a little bit. Who wants to kick off?
You want to go?
Sure. I think, what has inspired me is even small representation, seeing women in leadership. And so I think all of us have a role to play in inspiring others. We also talk openly about the need to think about women as we talk about promotions in the office. And so it's become a normalized conversation where we say we need to make sure that we are elevating women, and that when we look at who's being promoted, it's a diverse picture of what the firm looks like, right? So we have focused on making sure that we have a diverse pool of people within the office, and talking about that at a leadership level and what our leadership looks like is evolving over time, right? We haven't always done that, and so it has increase the number of women that we have in leadership. But we also talk to our women within the studio about opportunities for leadership. And we look at a wide array of opportunities for people to lead and step up, and we talk to them about the when we see somebody who we specifically feel has the characteristics, we talk to them about it, because I think a lot of times women don't necessarily see that in themselves. And I know for me, when I had, somebody within leadership in the firm sit down with me over coffee and say, we see this potential in you, it escalated my confidence tremendously. And so doing that for other women, I think is really important toward increasing their self-awareness and confidence to step into those leadership roles.
So true. Anna, do you want to add to that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I was just reflecting on my own career. I think the times where I've considered leaving the industry, which has happened when I've had kids or hit a particularly hard roadblock, maybe within the company I was in at the time. What got me through was being able to connect with another leader who had a very similar experience to me, and I could have a very honest and raw conversation about what I was going through. And I have never had a female leader. I've never had a female supervisor in my career. So I am thankful to my male supervisors and leaders who have, maybe they couldn't be the conduit for that conversation. They connected me with someone who could be. And so I just think it's really important for everyone to provide as many opportunities as possible to make these informal connections that may not happen within your office, but maybe it's a former colleague or someone in the industry that and make those informal connections for people, I think is just absolutely critical.
Anyone else want to share on that, Caryn or Catriona?
I'm thinking about Marnique's comments. I mean, I think, one of the things that we always think about is you can't be what you can't see. And so you really have to make space for leadership opportunities, be intentional, look for people, as I think everybody's mentioned, who can come up into leadership roles. I will say I feel very lucky in my position. It's been very important to the co-chairs of the International Masonry Institute to have women in leadership. My predecessor, who at IMI, who was also a building museum trustee, was a woman. It's something that they've really looked for, and they've really advanced women in these roles. And the maternity benefit that we started was really a priority of the Board of Trustees, and it was unanimous that we develop and deploy that program. And so I think allyship, mentorship, and being really intentional about making space for people.
Yeah, I think we'll transition to our final question here, which is really just a look ahead, and I'd love for you guys just to reflect a little bit. I opened with a question about what has inspired you and motivated you in your career, and I think now, especially as we're getting towards the end of the session, and we're all experiencing maybe the need for hope, continued hope, and motivation and inspiration. So I'd love to see you guys either talk about maybe either a trend or a shift that you're seeing in your field, and kind of in an exciting way, in a hopeful way, and if you want to connect the dots between what women are bringing to that space, that would be wonderful as well. But let's kick off with you, Catriona.
One of the vulnerable moment I'll share. Recently, I had this sobering moment where I realized that I had fallen into a pattern of only saying STEM instead of saying STEAM, the A being for arts. And that was a sobering moment for me. And I was like the geeky classics, Latin, piano, theater, dance kid. I was not the sporty spice. And so I had this moment where I was like, man, that is my background. How come I didn't think to bring the A back into and make it STEAM? And so that is something I've been working really hard to make sure I'm thinking about differently, because I think there is so much inspiration for how things can be designed better and work better when you're infusing art and culture into it. And I think it also opens up some interesting partnerships that can enhance some opportunities for ways that interesting intersections of job typologies are born out of those intersections. And so that's something that has been on my radar screen that I've been really focused on. And so it's something I've seen as a trend that I've realized I was blind to and I've needed to pay attention to differently. And it's funny when it's like you kind of start seeing color again in a way, or for me, I have. So that's my thing.
I love that.
I love that because I think of architecture as being so related to the A, not just because architecture starts with an A, but I hear a lot of people say, I wanted to be an architect, but I don't like math and I'm really not good at it, and so I didn't do architecture. I'm like, no, architecture is so much more. There's such a creative and artistic side to architecture, and so I love that you're leaning into the A. And what I am really inspired by with some of the our younger design talent that's coming into the office is their focus on resiliency and sustainability and how architecture can really help us think about some of the challenges that we face as we move into climate disasters. And I'm so hopeful that with the technology and the thinking and this focus, this renewed focus on thinking about sustainability in a completely different way and at the highest levels, that we can really, our industry can really make more of an impact there. So,
Love it.
I, thinking about the statistics that Aileen mentioned at the beginning about the participation rate of women in the construction industry, I'm hopeful that in the last 10 years, the biggest increases on the craft worker side have been the percentage of women who are first-line supervisors on job sites and the number of women who are represented in apprenticeship. And this is a trend that I've really seen in my own career. In fact, we're hosting an international apprentice contest at the end of this month in Detroit, and we have many women represented among the 82 craft workers who are competing there. And so it's great to see that across all the crafts, including brick and block, which is great. And I'm also encouraged by the Tradeswomen and Build Nations conference that we participate in every year. They're expecting more than 6,000 women craft workers in Chicago later this month in one place. So there really is a trend, and there's just in general, I think, a trend of people being interested in these careers earlier and in greater numbers. So I think there is a lot we can do to correct some of the workforce development trends that I know everyone has been talking about today. But there are already really bright signs in the data.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in closing, I think I've, with my 3 kids in high school, right, I see this in action. They have an opportunity to graduate with high school with a certificate that is within the trades or within building construction. So it's their high school path is all about putting them career ready to be in the trades or to be in the building industry or architecture or engineering, right? So I really do feel like at least locally, our school systems are making this much more part of the norm than it was when I was in high school. It just wasn't really a thing that was offered. And I also am encouraged, AI being something that is here, and my kids are learning how to utilize AI as a tool. It's to improve the work they're doing and not have it do the work that they're doing, right? So I think we have a generation that is coming out of the school system that I think will be helping transform our industry further, right, with AI. So I don't know, I feel good about our future kids.
I love that. Feels good. Jennifer, do we have time for like one or two? We have time for maybe two questions before I close us out. If anybody wants to ask this esteemed panel a question or two. Miss Judy Donnell.
Hi, I want to go back to, and I can't remember who exactly said it, but that you had got with the guidance counselors into high school. And did you find that because you're not paying them, that they're kind of just giving you the, okay, yeah, I'll talk about that, but I'm going to put these kids through college because this particular college pays me to bring so many students in?
Well, two things. One, it was an education for us in that when I was growing up high school in the 90s, there were only guidance counselors. There weren't guidance counselors and career counselors. And they have bifurcated, generally speaking, have bifurcated it so that guidance counselor is whole person mentality, career counselor is what are you going to do when you leave here? We found a refreshingly positive thank you, gratitude of like, we have more information now. We knew it was out there, but we didn't know how to talk about it because of some cultural norms and paradigms and stigmas of, construction's a dirty science, and it's dusty and it's loud, and so being able to kind of show some of these pathways and show what a modern day construction experience can be like in a day-to-day life of the worker. Was something that we found they were excited to then be able to talk about, because a lot of them are well-intentioned because they just want to meet their students where they are and make sure that they're connecting with their students in a way that they feel empowered to launch, like really launch into society after high school. And, especially when, they may not choose or want to, or college may not be in the cards for them. So it was overwhelming positivity.
I just want to echo that because we've been involved with the Guidance Counselors Association conferences every year, and that's been the same experience we've had. The reception has gotten warmer and warmer. I do just want to note too that college and the trades are not mutually exclusive. Like we have an apprentice who has a PhD in Russian literature. So, just always think about this as a career option for any parents and students who are listening to it by any chance.
And I just want to thank Judy for that question. Judy, who has been such a mentor and peer and friend to so many women in the industry. So thank you for keeping it going. Maybe one more, and then I'll close us out. Or a question over a drink.
Yes, thank you. I have one question. So we mentioned having women in leadership and having that mentor or sponsor and having that role model being a woman in leadership. But we also recognize that there aren't very many women. Are we seeing a shift in, the mindset of our male allies, sponsors, to help those women to advance in their careers?
I can start. I certainly have. I mean, when I started elevating within my firm, there were no women in leadership roles. And it was a man who identified me as a next leader. And it was that same man who said, we don't have any women in leadership. That's a problem. It's not that we don't have strong women. We need to make sure that we are focused on it. And so, I mean, from my perspective, absolutely, because that's how I got here. And I think what I recognized was there was a time when he would talk about it, and then as he stopped talking about it, nobody else did, and so it wasn't happening. And so to me, that signaled we need to keep talking about this and making sure that it's front of mind for women typically, but that it's front of mind for men. So normalizing those conversations I've found to be important, but I certainly have benefited from men recognizing the need to elevate women.
We probably all have, because you had to.
Right.
I'll say, within Arup, I know a lot of the conversations we have is that good design comes from diverse design, and so it's not just maybe gender oriented, but every sense of diversity, right, is so critical, and we've realized it makes us better, right? And so I feel like everyone is on board more than they ever have been, which I feel amazing about that, right? I feel that's why I'm still here today, because I see a change that's happened throughout that conversation. So yeah.
Aileen.
Yes.
Yes. Ellen Thorpe, Coalition for Sustainable Roofing. I'm really glad that this has been your experience. We see the same thing in the roofing industry, where professional level women report less harassment. The data, the research that I read, however, showed a really different story with field workers and installers. And time after time after time after time again, it is not better there. So for skilled trades and crafts workers, people who generally work in the field, there has been no improvement. Men may understand that they're going to have women on the job site, but leadership is largely ineffective in controlling harassment. And there's several different reasons for that I won't go into.
Anyone want to comment on that?
I will jump on that. So I was sharing a story earlier that, about 5 years or so ago, I was on a job site doing some stair pressurization testing, walking up through a mostly finished building, and found a plethora of sexually explicit sketches all over the walls. And, fortunately for me, I was far enough in my career where I felt strong enough to have a voice. And I walked down the construction trailer and I said, hey, by the way, you might want to take care of all this graffiti. There are a lot of women on your job sites who probably feel pretty uncomfortable and don't feel empowered to speak up. And to their credit, they got on the radio, called their painting crews. They went through, removed everything, apologized. And I think it, again, goes back to my point of why it's so important for all of our industries to be keeping women in the industry, because I'm not a tradesperson, but I was a female leader on site who could feel empowered to speak up. And so I recognize that's still a challenge, and I think it's all of our responsibility to be that voice for people.
Okay, well, with 1 minute left, we're so prompt. I'll just round it out with a shameless promotion of the Building Museum, which I hope all of you look at as your museum, because that's what it is. It is our museum for all of the work that you do, and I'd love for you to be involved as we inspire the next generation who is going to take on all of these issues and build that better world. I mentioned at the top of the day today, October 18th is our Big Build Festival. That's 4,000 kids in this room that are learning every bit of the trade. Today we're addressing an immediate crisis, but there is a long game to play here as well. And the museum does such an incredible job of that through also our STEM and STEAM learning as well. And also we'll be opening up the first exhibition of our Future Cities initiative. We talk about looking towards the future of our urban environment. The museum's going to be pretty laser focused on that for the next 3 years with some exciting exhibitions. And then always come and shop in the world's best museum gift shop. With that, thank you so much. And I think I turn it back to George to close us out. Is that correct? Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I mean, just really inspirational. I really appreciate the time that you're spending with us. As we conclude, I really also want to thank everyone in this room, because having folks up here, being able to interact, yes, everything's recorded. We'll have edited versions of all the sessions that are going to be posted next week. We'll have links. A lot of folks who couldn't make it here are going to be able to enjoy the messaging, the insights, but they're definitely better because you're here in the room, and the energy and the care and really the emotion that you bring. So thank you for that. I took a few things away, and I just wanted to kind of share what I took away, see if maybe that's what you took away. First, embrace innovation. Right now, innovation might have a lot of AI in it. That's not always the case. There's always going to be advances in innovation, and we have to embrace that. Invest in people and culture. Netflix, if you're listening, I expect built environment workforce demon hunters next year. And the third thing is, progress is still a people business. I remember when I first started, I had a mentor who said, do you know how to define success? And I said, well, a whole bunch of things. And they said, no, it's real simple. Success is a function of people to the third, processes to the second, and tools to the first. He also was a nerd. But the point was that people have the most outsized influence on success and always will. AI is a tool. People are what matter. So I really appreciate all the help. Thank you very much to the amazing crew here, to the staff here at the National Building Museum, an amazing venue. And I invite everyone to please join us, shameless plug, in January as we have a 2-day conference on building for tomorrow. It's going to be on retrofitting for resilience, rebuilding, and building new for resilience. After about 1 year after the wildfires, we're really going to have day 1 be about policies and strategies, day 2 about means, methods, material, and technology that can help out with that. It's going to be January 28th, 29th in Disneyland. Disney's going to be a great partner for us. I hope that as we continue forward, we'll all be able to continue this conversation and make sure that we bring back the insights to everyone that are in our network. So, thank you. We have cocktails and some past hors d'oeuvres and stuff as snacks next door. Our signature cocktail is called the Workforce Elixir. For those of you who prefer non-alcoholic, it's called the Safety Sip. Please do enjoy, and I look forward to speaking more with you. Thank you.